Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Central Podcast, Episode 3. We are going to continue with the student life during COVID, and I am here, joined with the man himself,
Justin Martin. Yay, me.
Yay! All right. That was
Thank you.
very anticlimactic, but we don't talk about it. All right. You being a freshman, you are now experiencing a different world, I guess, now being in high school. So my first question to ask you is, how has this been affecting you? This whole COVID and the change throughout the world, how has that affected your freshman year?
Well, with nothing to compare it to for the rest of the time being at Central, it just seems like I've moved from middle school to high school. There's not really I don't have a set idea of what high school is supposed to be like. So I'm sure next year will be very different.
Okay. Well, let's say comparing to middle school, like how in 8th grade you transitioned to online, and it was probably very crazy because all your teachers were doing different things. So how is that like, I guess, compared to now is what I'm trying to say.
Doing things online, it's easier in a way, but some things are also more difficult because a lot of teachers will be doing the same program in different ways, or having you turn in different assignments through this, that, and the other. And it's just a whole lot to keep up with. But on the positive side, you don't have to wake up as early. All of your classes you just click on the link and go. Yeah.
Following up with that, do you prefer online learning or do you prefer the in-person experience?
Like I said, they both have their ups and downs. I know a lot of people struggle with the online learning,
Okay.
but I think I personally like it better because I don't have to eat school food.
Why do you think that people are struggling online?
I think all of the different programs and things gets to be a little much for most people to keep up with, and it's making them turn things in late sometimes and miss assignments when they're posted because Canvas doesn't exactly give you a notification when there's something new. Just pops it up on the side.
Right. Okay. I mean, you've spent about roughly 6 or 7 months here at Central so far. What do you think about it? How do you think the school is like?
So far, it's pretty great. All of my teachers are really nice, unlike 8th grade, but we're not going to talk about that. So all the teachers are nice, and most of the students are helpful, and if you've missed something the teacher was talking about, you can always ask someone for help on something, and as long as it won't take them half an hour, they generally try to help.
That's one thing that I really appreciate about Central is how cooperative, well, I don't want to say most, but like some students are. I think that's one thing that really stands out about our school because, I mean, just generally, I could ask anyone if I'm struggling on something, and most of the time, they would be willing to help. In terms of your academic performance, would you say that online learning has affected it for you in particular?
Probably, because personally, I have trouble keeping up with assignments anyway, because stuff, and all the different programs have definitely made it more difficult, but it's not so much so that it's taking me from an A to a C or anything like that. It's just inconvenient, I guess.
Right. I definitely agree. I think that online learning has pressured me a bit because some teachers are giving off different sets of workloads, and you have some of these teachers just assigning way too much, which, especially if you're sitting down staring at the computer screen for like 7 hours a day, that's like, it gets mind-blowing, should I say. In that regard, how would you say that teachers are handling online?
Well, for the classes I have here, they don't exactly assign a whole lot of work. You were just in my last period, which is guitar, and there's not really much you can do at home for that. We were all given one, but he can't be there to help us. which goes for all of the classes. The teacher isn't there to help you through something. And you can always message them on Zoom or whatever, but that's not always as helpful, I guess.
Then would you say that it would be more convenient that all the at-home students were to return back to the building?
It would definitely be more convenient because I know the teachers have a hard time talking to both the online students and the in-person ones,
right,
alternating back and forth.
Right. I can imagine how that gets annoying because I see that all the time in class, and it seems pretty stressful because you're focusing on multiple things at once. Following your sophomore year, do you think that the mask mandate will be lifted by then?
Well, the vaccine is out now, so it's going to start becoming less prominent, I guess. But I think places like schools and anywhere there are mass gatherings of people, it will still be heavily recommended, if not required.
Right. Yeah, I mean, right now as things are going, I can't really tell whether or not the mask mandate will still be in standard, but I do know that because of the vaccine, things will likely start getting better. And honestly, I'm hoping so, because wearing this mask and going around the building doing computer work is not my thing. I need to take a breather. Like, these masks, I swear, you can hardly breathe in them sometimes when you're doing like a lot of talking or just anything in general. Like, even right here, right now, just talking is already like taking my breath away. What are your thoughts on the block schedule? Because before you came to Central, we went off of a basis of 7 class periods per day with 50 minutes per class. And it had ups and downs to it. Like, let's say you would be able to take the classes that you want to take, but in some cases, that would lead you down the road with a bit more homework to catch up with the next day. And the block schedule, how that has said is you still have, I mean, I would say now teachers are a little bit more lenient with work, but they've been establishing out more work depending, because some students aren't catching up or they need to teach like 2 lessons per day. So there's been a lot of controversy, well, not maybe a lot, but like some controversy about the block schedule and how that's affected students. So what are your thoughts on it?
I think that academically speaking, the block schedule is probably better, because if that had been the standard, there wouldn't have been the whole struggling to catch up with work thing. And with more time in each class, you have more time to learn the material and less of all of that whole struggling to get things done and not knowing things. But as for the swap, I think that the other schedule might have been better, because everyone who's been here, they have
been used to it.
Yeah, they're used to the other schedule. Right. So changing it when there's so much other things changing might not have been the best idea.
And who knows, we might do a follow-up for your sophomore year. So there might be like a part 2. So,
everyone would love to have me return.
Yeah. That's funny. Do you think social distancing around the school building, like the whole arrow pointing and teachers, I guess, mandating those rule sets, do you think that has been beneficial?
It's definitely beneficial because of, obviously, COVID, and 6 feet minimizes chances of catching it and whatnot. But a whole lot of people are kind of, after doing it for so long, they're kind of starting to disregard it a little bit, like especially at lunch. I sit in there for a while, and a lot of times it'll work for the first bit because there's circles and X's and whatever on the cafeteria floor to stand on. But once those end, everyone is all clumped up in a group and they're not spread out at all.
Especially like on buses too, when students go from one place to school, and they're not really separated because you can't. I mean, I think that also applies to many school buildings too. You can only do so much to social distance people, but at the end of the day, you can only work with what you have. While it has its pros, it also has its cons because, like you said, there are students that are just used to the whole aspect of not abiding by these arrows. What scares you the most about high school so far?
That's a difficult question.
I know.
I personally do future ready for the first half of the day, so that has me transitioning schools halfway through, and having to keep up with multiple schools is a little bit difficult, but I'm managing to handle that.
Right.
And it's just very, very different from what middle school was, where you would go same teachers whole time. Swapping teachers in the middle of the year was interesting.
Right. Do you think that you have more freedom as high school was advertising?
I mean, on that aspect, it's not really that different on terms of freedom. Because when you have these set classes you're going to, well, I like picking your classes better. That's definitely more freedom. But once you get into it, it's you have these classes, this is your schedule, you do this, and this, and then you go home. It's, in that aspect, I think it's the same. But there are definitely more opportunities to do other things that you would enjoy.
Right. Back in middle school, there were also restrictions on cell phones and
oh, that's true.
And being able to roam around the building on your own to go from point A to point B. You kind of had to stay. You couldn't just talk with your friend in the middle of the hall.
Yeah.
Somewhere and then go to your class. You had to basically just go from point A to point B back in middle school. So I'm really glad that high school kind of offers that sense of freedom in that regard, that you don't need to be so caught up on, oh my goodness, I'm just going to be told by teachers all the time, go to your class, because you can just take that second to talk with a friend or something about something important and then move along.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that since we spent the last bit of the 8th grade year not in school.
You have one? All right, go, co-host.
I was actually going to say you can ask, what is one thing you hope that COVID doesn't take away from your high school experience that you fear it might take away?
So what do you fear to lose from this stupid virus?
Sounds like a very threatening question.
It is.
What do you fear to lose?
No, this is why I'm the host.
I know a lot of, at least when I was starting the year and picking classes and whatnot, a lot of them were not happening because of COVID and stuff. And in middle school, I had always thought about having the freedom to pick all of your classes, and I thought that sounded really fun, but with COVID, it's taken away a whole bunch of those, and so my options are much more limited on what classes I can choose.
Right. I definitely agree with you. I'm just a slight bit concerned about my technology classes for next year, but Mr. Johnson's got me covered. So if you're watching this, Mr. Johnson, good man. But in that case, thank you everyone for watching. We'll continue with a senior next time, and thank you for helping us with this.
My pleasure.
So, all right. Vámonos.